Well, greetings and felicitations, folks. Welcome to the pre-show. I don't know how my computer got so close to my face. I think I was working on something today and I pulled it up close. So let's see. We're set there for the stream. We're set here. All our banners are flying. Yes, we're playing with Legos tonight, said Field Guy. You out there, Field Guy? So anyway, a rollicking day, another glorious day in the Corps today. So, nothing eventful to talk about in the pre-show. We're just it's the pre-show to make sure we're set up. We go live at 9:03 over on the radio. Paige Rockwell, soiree. Carlene Smith, how you doing? Good to see you. Rendell Flagg is here. Wasn't there a comic book character, Captain Flagg? Something like that. Michael, good to see you, brother. Viking Off-Road. Boy, should I turn off that big nasty overhead? Yeah, I got time to get up and do that. I think I'll do that. It gets awfully bright in here. Okay. So I can do this without frying my retinas by always looking at it. Don't look at the light! And then I always look at it. Hoy. Okay. There we are. I think that's a little better. Huh? That one's got to turn that way. So it's not frying the hell out of my background, which is not wallpaper. It's a poster, big Middle Earth poster. So how's your day been, folks? Hey, Steph, how you doing? Michael, Scotty is with a Y, not an I-E. Scotty with an I-E is a girl's name. Oh, look at that. We got 20 seconds and we go live. So guess what? We're going to go dark. Don't nobody go nowhere, to use proper English. Sit tight. We'll be right back.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey, folks. Happy Monday. Welcome to the program. I'm Scotty Roberts, your host. This is my show, the Intrepid radio broadcast, serving up live audio talk over on the radio station at Subspace Radio, subspace.radio, and at odysseyradio.com. And you can also go over to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Scotty Roberts, where you can watch the show in live, full color video simulcast. I remember when I was a kid, we were just coming out of the black and white era of television and going into color in the late 60s and the early 70s. And I remember shows like The FBI with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. And they would always start that, The FBI in color. Do you hear that anymore on TV shows? Do you watch your favorite show? Star Trek in color. All's in the House, or whatever some of those sitcoms are, in color. Your local news now broadcast to you in living color. So, yeah, those were the good old days. That always comes into my head. And, you know, you can listen in color. So come on over to the chat room where all the Intrepids hang and listen to the show and they chat with each other. You can chat from Facebook pages, but there it doesn't show you all the chats. Not all your chats are in there. Oh, there, I just got a reminder on my computer to start my show at 9 o'clock. So it's now 9:05. So welcome to the program, everybody. If you come over to the YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button and subscribe to my channel. Hit the little bell, and it will send you announcements when everything plays. And at the same time, you can hit the join button. That's going to cost you money, anywhere from $1 to $15 a month. But you don't have to. If you'd like to and help support this show, hit the join button. Boom. The rest is something you can figure out by going there and looking. And also, I just want to put in a plug, 2 plugs. One of them is over here. Let's see, over here, up. I'm doing this backwards. Patriot Propaganda Apparel. That site has not launched yet. That is the new business I'm part of. We had just some things with vendor stuff we had to get set up. It's going to be maybe another week or so before that actually gets full-fledged launched. So go over, take a look. In the meantime, you can go over to the Facebook page, which is Patriot Propaganda Apparel. You can go over to the Instagram, which I think is Patriot Propaganda Apparel as well. And you can go take a look, a pre-look at what we're all about. And at the same time, we've got our sponsor over here, right there, Fairy Legs. You can go to Fairy Legs at fairylegs.com, Fairy, fairylegs.com. And it's a play on the fae and fairies, Tinkerbell, only more sophisticated. And it's all leggings, mostly for women, but guys are going to like it too. There's a lot of great art over there. And if you don't want to buy them and wear them for yourself, take a look. There's probably somebody in your life you want to buy them for. So go take a peek. You can go to Instagram to fairylegsshop.com and take a look. So go on over. I don't have Peacock, says Philip Blair, so you can't watch your shows in living color. That's the guy who did the voice. I just remember that from several shows. The FBI in color. So, yeah, I grew up with a black and white TV, Paige Rockwell. I had a little 13-inch Zenith black and white TV in my room because we graduated from that to a big black and white TV in the main room of the house. And I think I was 13 years old before we had color television. And my neighbor or my friend from school, Chuck, he had color TV. So we'd all go over. That was that could almost have been a pickup line in high school. Well, I was in grade school at the time, but hey, Chuck's got color TV. Oh, his parents must be rich, was the talk going around school at the time. So I'd go up to Chuck's and we'd watch TV in color. And it was always cool. So today is a day I think I'm going to hit the affirmation cards, the affirmators, or as I like to call them, the bunny rabbit riding a unicorn, leaping a rainbow. And these are, there's 50 cards in here to help you help yourself without the self-helpiness, is what it says right on the deck. So there you go. And so let's see what these have to say today. I don't think there's anything super spiritual, not like Spirit says, I've got affirmations to share with you. And I am on the radio, daughter, so act accordingly. What do you need?
You're on the radio.
Hey, radio audience, I'm on the radio. My 11-year-old came in, and just for no other reason other than to
I'm going to do it again.
violate the rules. So, what? What are you going to do again?
What's this?
What's what?
Look.
Where? What?
Look down.
Where? What?
What's this?
What? Okay,
Look down.
I'll humor her. What? So, anyway. So that was Ron, at least come over here and show your face nice and say something nice. There you go.
Rawr.
There's my 11-year-old Rowan. What's your shirt say? Hold on. Let me overthink this. Pretty much true. All right. Bye. See ya. Scram. Get out of here. Oh, no. That was my glasses.
Did you broke them?
I did. Look what I just did to my glasses.
I'll fix them.
Here, will you take those to Mom and ask her if she can refix those for me?
I can fix them.
That's what I do. That's why I go through so many pairs of glasses. And those of you just listening on radio, you didn't get to see that. So, yeah, those are my driving glasses and my going to the movie theater glasses and my frankly watching TV glasses, not my computer glasses, which are these. You ever do that? You ever knock your glasses on the floor and step on them? Yeah. All right. Affirmators. Let's get to this now. Let's shuffle this deck up and let's see what affirmative message we can get today. All right. I'm not going to, these are oversized a little bit. So I can't shuffle them like I'm playing poker in the Old West. Here, speaking of old TV and color, there was an old ad in the early 70s for M&M's. Shows a bunch of gritty cowboys sitting around a poker table. And they're all holding up their cards. And the one's got his cards in front of his face, and there's chocolate fingerprints on them. He goes, "These cards are marked." The other guy goes, "Yeah, they're a mess." The other one goes, "Yeah, a chocolate mess." And of course, it was an ad for M&Ms. They don't melt in your hand unless you hold them for an hour and squeeze them. All right. All right, here we go. I'm going to cut this deck of affirmator cards. Just so you can see I'm being honest, I will draw a card off the top of the deck. Affirmator. This is ideal partnership. Let's see what it has to say. Here's your affirmator for today. I am a rare and precious find. Say this to yourself. Look in the mirror. I am a rare and precious find, and my brilliance will be reflected back to me when I'm paired with a true match. My ideal partnerships and working relationships are easy and free-flowing. I deserve greatness. I deserve greatness. Because I am greatness. And to paraphrase Rumi, what I'm looking for is also looking for me. In fact, he or she might be paraphrasing Rumi right now. So it says, oh, you know what I just noticed? I actually drew two cards. They weren't stuck together, but there was tensile cohesion of some sort. What's the one I should have drawn, which would have been actually on the top? Divine timing. Everything is timing, and timing is everything. Gladly, I release my concern over timing and let things happen when and as they will. I trust that the divine schedule makers know what they're doing. It can take a long time to reach divine middle management. So there you go. Divine timing. Well, let's hit that one for a second. Things happen the way they're supposed to happen. Life unfolds the way it's supposed to unfold. Are we fatalists? Do we believe, can we change our stars? Can we? I remember that phrase from a fun movie, not a historically accurate one, but Heath Ledger was in the movie 20 plus years ago, A Knight's Tale, which, if you didn't know, it was loosely based on Canterbury Tales. And so A Knight's Tale, and he was a poor kid who wanted to become a knight, and so he masqueraded as a knight who died, his master, and won all kinds of things, and it's his whole life up to that point. And so he used to say his dad gave him off to this knight to give him a better upbringing when he was a little boy. And so he grows up with as a what's the word I'm looking for? A squire to this knight. And his dad talked about, you can change your stars. And so divine timing, things happen as they're supposed to happen. They unfold the way they're supposed to unfold. Life unfolds the way it's supposed to unfold. We've seen so many fictional playings of like the time travel thing or changing history or something like that, where you circumvent something and you think you've changed it, but history still plays out the way it's supposed to. And so it's very interesting stuff. So don't worry so much about the way things unfold, because they unfold the way they're supposed to. The whole thing is how you deal with what's unfolding. And that's a lesson that sometimes there are resilient people. And this ties right into what we're going to talk about tonight. Resilient people and people that maybe some aren't so resilient. And resilience is that thing that is a stepping stone to, as a matter of fact, I had it written on the graphic for tonight. Resilience is both a reflection and a building block of character. Resilience, you say? Resilience, you say? So Chuck Thurston said, I need to read that card to my wife and watch her laugh herself silly. Yeah, my wife is more uptight than I am. I don't know why, but she is. She's a chick, that's why. Oh, I'm so offended. He said the word chick. Don't worry about it. We're just being lighthearted. So it can take a long time to reach divine middle management, it says. And that kind of tied in with the one that was right underneath it, which we read first. Ideal partnership. I'm a rare and precious find. You know what that made me think of? Remember Stuart Smalley from Saturday Night Live? Old Al Franken bits before he became a politician? He would play Stuart Smalley, who talked like this. And in every one of his little bits, he said, now look in your mirror, face yourself in your mirror, look at yourself and say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. And you know what? For as dumb and stupid as his humor was, his psychology was actually pretty sound in those comic bits. Much against my will, I once watched Stuart Smalley Saves His Family. I think it was with my ex-wife when that came out. And then, I really don't want to watch this. And it's one of those movies I would put in my banal list, not worth my time list. And I ended up in a part of it. It was a stupid, banal comic thing with Stuart Smalley, played by Al Franken. I ended up at one point crying. I shed some tears in it. Like 30 years ago, I think that movie, 25 years ago. And because it was poignant, even though they dealt with all the situations comically, it made a poignant under message. And I thought that was kind of odd that it treated me that way. But that was also the movie where a bunch of big old rednecks are going to beat the shit out of him in a bar. And he says, well, really, when you think about it, I think it's just you may not have breastfed long enough when you were a child and things like that. So it was dumb humor. But I am a rare and precious find, and my brilliance will be reflected back to me when I'm paired with my true match. So there you go. Chuck, tell your wife that one. My brilliance will be, I'm a rare and precious find, honey. My brilliance will be reflected back to me because you're my perfect match. Was it go? My ideal partnerships and working relationships are easy and free flowing. I deserve greatness. Think about that for a second. Don't we all deserve greatness? Well, actually, none of us deserve shit. None of us deserve anything. You work for what you have to do, and you bring your character, you build your character and integrity along the way. So there's some little bunny rabbit riding a unicorn, leaping a rainbow advice for tonight. It's an affirmator. So take that to the bank and do with it what you will. Now let me put this back together, and we shall move on a bit. So you know what I like about doing these cards and the matchbooks and stuff? I was just talking to my daughter Abby about that today. And I said, I do these sometimes because the messages are fun, the other ones because they're serious, but I do them because it helps me think extemporaneously, think on the spot, be in the moment, figure out what you're going to say, how you're going to think. Chuck says, she reminds me all the time I'm lucky she settled on me. And I have to agree. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I'm lucky my wife didn't shit can me very early on in our relationship, because I was a douchebag. Only from the sense that when we met and started dating, I wouldn't admit we were dating. I said, you know what? We're not dating. I don't want to date, I said. Been through all that, got the kids to show for it, got the broken hearts along the way. And you know what? I don't want to do that anymore. And I held her at arm's length. I wasn't nasty or abusive, not that way. I just didn't want to settle on a relationship. And it finally happened. And I'm glad it did. I got 3 kids now, 3 more kids, and kids of my old age, who I will tell you something in talking about character. The reason I brought this up, many of the topics I bring up are things that I need to preach to myself, because they're things that I need to work on. Character isn't the thing that you show other people only. It's not the show you put on. Integrity is not just the thing that you possess for the purpose of having other people see how full of character and integrity you are. I used to tell my youth group when I was a youth pastor way back 40 years ago. And I told those kids back then, I said, integrity and character are the things you do when nobody else is looking. I used to tell my kids, I remember there was one point, and it stuck with me for years, even after I taught it, was that I taught this whole series to my kids in the high school group. And when I was a youth pastor, and it was called Improving Your Serve. And it was based on a book by Chuck Swindoll, all about Christians being servants to other people. And I said, being a servant isn't something you always do for pay. It isn't something that you do so other people see you. I said, it's getting your fingernails dirty on the behalf of another person when nobody's there to see it, and nobody's there to pat you on the back and blow up your head. So I think that's the whole thing about character and integrity. And integrity is something that's so lacking nowadays. Character and integrity, both. And so I've got 6 ways to develop your character. We got a little list here. But before I do that, I want to talk about how character, resilience. Do you know what resilience is? Bouncing back, moving forward, always moving forward. Character, resilience, and self-esteem all go hand in hand. And the choices that we make in responding to all the challenges we face reveal the stuff we are made of. There is that just spark memory, and I gotta mention this when it comes to mind. I remember when I was going through stories I've talked about on here before. When my daughters, my twins, were 3, they're 31 now. When they were 3, my wife at the time, she left. I came home from a weekend away that she was supposed to join me on, and she decided to let, oh, you just go, you need a break. I came home, everything was gone. Kids were gone. I didn't find my kids for 3 solid months. And she had brought them into a battered women's shelter, saying I was abusing her and them. It was all a big cover story to try to cover up the fact that she was in an affair, and she wanted to break up our relationship because of it. You have to trust me on that one. I'm not omitting anything other than more nasty details. So I remember there was one day I was sitting and I was almost despondent. I hadn't seen my children for a couple of months. And there was already a court case that she was filing against me for divorce and custody. I would sit with my pastor and talk about it. I shaved off my ponytail. I had a big ponytail at the time, my long, thick, dark hair with a ponytail. And, because I was going to be facing these court things, I wanted to look as good as I could for this. And But I was sitting because I hadn't seen my kids. I wasn't getting anywhere at the time. And you all know the upshot. I've told this story before. I ended up with custody of my kids as a result of all of that. But I, one day, I did something I had taught against, something I had never done myself before, because I believe it's a rare thing to do, and it's something you ought not do, especially when living a Christian lifestyle. But I picked up my Bible and I prayed and I said, God, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm at my wit's end. I don't know the decisions that I should be making. I don't know how to find my kids. I don't know how to get this thing that I'm facing in court. I don't know how to deal with this. My pastor kept telling me, he says, one of two things will be true when this is all over, Scotty. He says, one, you'll be married to your wife. Two, you'll be divorced from your wife. You'll have your kids or you won't. He says, the big question is, what will you do with your character and your integrity? So I was getting all that kind of advice, but I picked up my Bible and I said, God, this is what I'm going to do. For good or bad, I'm going to just close my eyes, flip it open, and stick my finger in and ask that you will divinely, you're the master of the universe. You own it all. You can certainly flip a page for me. You can control physics to be able to get me to point to the right thing. So I opened my Bible and I stuck my finger in, I opened my eyes, and I ended up on James 1. James, a little book in the New Testament. And it said this, where my finger hit. It says, now listen to these words, folks. You might not be a Christian, you might not be churchified, but listen to these words of wisdom from James. He says, consider it a sheer gift, friends, when tests and challenges come at you from all sides. You know that under pressure, your faith life is forced into the open and shows its true colors. So don't try to get out of anything prematurely. Let it do its work so you become mature and well-developed and not deficient in any way. And if you don't know what you're doing, the passage goes on, pray to the Father. He loves to help. You'll get his help, and you won't be condescended to when you ask for it. But ask boldly, believingly, without a second thought. People who worry their prayers are like wind-whipped waves. Don't think you're going to get anything from the master that way, adrift at sea, keeping all your options open. When down and outers get a break, cheer. And when the arrogant rich are brought down to size, cheer. Prosperity is as short-lived as a wild flower, so don't ever count on it. You know that as soon as the sun rises, pouring down its scorching heat, the flower withers. Its petals wilt, and before you know it, that beautiful face is a barren stem. Well, that's a picture of the prosperous life. At the very moment, everyone who's looking on in admiration, it fades away to nothing. Anyone who meets a testing challenge head on and manages to stick it out is mighty fortunate. For such persons loyally in love with God, the reward is life and more life. And don't let anyone under pressure to give in to evil say, God is trying to trip me up. God is impervious to evil and puts evil in one's way. In no one's way, it says. The temptation to give in to evil comes from us, and only us. We have no one to blame but the leering, seducing flare-up of our own lust. Lust gets pregnant, has a baby, the baby's sin. Sin grows up to adulthood and becomes a real killer. So my very dear friends, don't get thrown off course. Every desirable and beneficial gift comes out of heaven. The gifts are rivers of light, cascading down from the Father of light. There's nothing deceitful in God, nothing two-faced, nothing fickle. He brought us to life using the true word, showing us off as the crown of all his creatures. So I'm going to end that there. It was mostly those first 3 verses, or 9 verses, I think it was, 3 paragraphs. Consider it a sheer gift, friends, when tests and challenges come your way and come at you from all sides, because you know that under pressure, your faith life is forced into the open and it shows its true colors. Don't try to get out of anything prematurely, but let it do its work so you become mature and well-developed. And if you don't know what you're doing, ask God. That's what it says. And so maybe you didn't come here tonight to get a Bible lesson. I wasn't planning a Bible lesson. But that popped into my head because this is exactly what we're talking about with character. James was teaching character and integrity in that passage, even though is very laden with leaning on God, letting God, praying to God. God is in control type of a message. Even if you strip that stuff away, the message is right. And so in talking about this, about character and integrity, character is about how individuals live out what they believe to be true about life, about people, and about the world. And resilience is both a reflection and a building block of character, hence the title of tonight's show, Building Blocks. And good character is about a collection of positive traits, and it evolves choice by choice over the course of someone's life experiences. Here's a quote here that I want to read you. He was pompous and arrogant when we captured him. But as the days went on and he no longer had his palaces, his generals, and his handmaidens, he just became a pathetic old man. This is what Navy SEAL Admiral William McRaven says of former Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein. He just said that in an interview this month. So within about 4 or 5 days, you could tell that Saddam was not a leader. He says, when you take away all the trappings, that's when you find out the character of an individual. Take away all the trappings, all the things around somebody. Strip yourself of it someday. Love is probably not the right word to use for this, but I want to do a vision quest, a Lakota vision quest, where you sit out and you fast and for days. And I think it's a building character experience. When you're stripped of everything else, Spirit can talk to you. So McRaven contrasted Hussein with Nelson Mandela. Now, you may not like Nelson Mandela's politics. You may have loved his politics. But get that out of the picture for a second. He spent over 27 years imprisoned in South Africa for challenging the apartheid government. And because Mandela had this great strength of character, he came out of prison as strong and maybe even stronger than he went in, says McRaven. What is character anyway, is the question I'm asking. We could say it's how you live out what you say you believe to be true about life and people and the world. It shows in how you live and how you treat others. Character shows in how you live and how you treat others. I've always worked at treating others as better than myself, equal to or better than myself. There are the times I catch myself looking down my nose at someone or something. It's usually from afar. And I got to catch myself doing that. I don't have a right to do that. So we think of character strengths as positive qualities that are reflected in someone's thoughts and their feelings, their actions especially. We aspire to have such character strengths ourselves, or find them in our friends, our family, or other people that are around us. Do you surround yourself with people of good character? People who have integrity? I'm not talking about people that don't slip up every now and then. People that aren't human. I'm talking about humans who stand for good character and integrity, and they live it. In positive psychology, there's many researchers that use the values in action, the VIA classification, which identifies 24 character strengths that are often organized into 6 core values, 6 core virtues. And the virtues represent characteristics long valued by philosophers and in religious teaching. And character strengths represent the means for achieving these virtues. And the VIA virtues and character strengths are these. You've heard these in other forms many times, I'm sure. Wisdom. That's creativity, curiosity, good judgment, love of learning, perspective. Courage, which is bravery, perseverance, honesty, and zest. There's humanity, love, kindness, social emotional intelligence. There's justice. That's teamwork, fairness, leadership. There's temperance, which is forgiveness, humility, prudence, and self-regulation. There's transcendence, which is appreciation of beauty and excellence. Gratitude, hope, humor, spirituality. So those are the 6 major virtues: wisdom, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, transcendence. And good character is more than just one attribute. It really is a collection of positive traits. And the good news is that research finds that positive character traits correspond to well-being, to happiness, to emotional and psychological health, to work performance, to satisfaction. If you have good character, all of those things seem to fall in place. So what about character strengths and resilience? To attain the level of virtue, to be fully realized and self-aware, requires us to cultivate qualities we associate with resilience. Cultivate. That's like a farming word, right? Till the soil, plant the seed, water it, watch it grow. Cultivate qualities that we associate with resilience, including judgment, perspective, bravery, perseverance, prudence, self-regulation, gratitude, hope, humor, and spirituality. These are among the characteristics of a resilient person. So when we face a challenge, we reveal our character. What did James say in that passage? When you're surrounded by all kinds of trials and hardships, in the Old English, he said, consider it a pure joy, because this is when your faith life is forced out into the open and shows its true colors. Or I would go further and say, this is where your character is forced out into the light and shows its true colors. When we face a challenge, we reveal who we are, what our character is. What are we made of? So consider Nelson Mandela again. Extraordinary challenge. Imprisoned for nearly 3 decades because of his efforts to oppose the South African government nonviolently. Yet he was able, upon his release, to have the wisdom, the courage, the humanity, the justice, the temperance, and transcendence to be able to shake hands with the prison guards who had kept him locked up for more than 27 years. And he abhorred the injustice that had put him in prison, but he didn't unjustly blame the guards for doing their jobs. This is a man who wrote in his autobiography, Long Walk to Freedom, again, whether you like Nelson Mandela or not. I love the Paul Simon song where he used a Ladysmith Back Mombasa, South African group, to do a lot of his backup music. Bring back Nelson Mandela. Bring him back home to Soweto. And, that song's going through my mind now all day. But Long Walk to Freedom. Nelson Mandela said this: I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. End of quote. And like the ancient Greeks who were also quite interested in the subject of courage, Mandela understood that the courageous man or woman acting from a place of humanitarianism and justice would certainly feel fear in the face of a difficult challenge, but would move forward anyway. Moving forward anyway. You ever watched the animated film Meet the Robinsons? About the orphan boy who gets adopted by a weird family, the Robinsons. And without giving away the plot, he learns from his older self, there's some giving away the plot, that always move forward, he said. And good character is not formed in a week. It's not formed in a month. You can't go, I need better character. I think I'm going to start acting with better character tomorrow. Well, you can start that process. But good character is not formed in a week or a month. Written by 6th century BCE Greek philosopher Heraclitus. Gotta be careful when you say that one. It's created, he said, little by little, day by day. Protracted and patient effort is needed to develop good character. So good character evolves over the course of our life experiences. Each bump in the road tests our character. It measures how well we choose. It gauges the degree to which we live out our ethics and our morality. And it shows what we're made of, the stuff you're made of. I used to ask the kids in my youth group, who are only teenagers, but I ask them all the time, what are you made of? What's the stuff that comprises the whole of who you are? So the choices we make at these moments to bravely face the truth rather than trying to hide from it, to let tears reveal our sorrow instead of choking them back to pretend indifference, to turn away from cruel words and not return them, reveal the person we really are. And these micro choices altogether comprise a big choice of who we want to be, the person we present to the world. Strong character, resilience, authenticity, genuine self-esteem go hand in hand. I used to teach the kids in my youth group again a lot about being authentic. Be who you are, but make sure who you are, the genuine you, is something that reveals good values, building good character, acting out of integrity. So another quote from Nelson Mandela: do not judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. It's almost become cliche because we've heard things like that many times. Again, I used to tell that when I was a youth pastor. I used to tell it when I was in ministry, when I was working with men's ministries later on. Don't judge me by my success. Judge me by how many times I fell down and didn't stay down but got back up. It's in choosing to get back up after we've fallen, the first time or the 50th time, that we build our resilience and strengthen our character on. And that is really the truth of building your character, becoming resilient, stepping up, getting up, keeping going. Just looking at the chat room, because I'm in between a couple of different thoughts I want to have. I got those 6 points I want to share with you. Philip Blair said, Nelson Mandela, I think you're talking about, studied while in prison, looking for wisdom. Nelson Mandela read Marcus Aurelius religiously. Remember when we were doing the meditations of Marcus Aurelius? We still haven't gotten through them all. We'll dig back into those again some other day. And then amazing, the thoughts of a man 2,000 years ago, almost 2,000 years ago. So I've got 6 very simple things to develop your character. And we got about 12 minutes to deliver these. That's about 2 minutes apiece if I don't rabbit trail myself. So character is the bridge between who you actually are and who people expect you to be. People automatically expect good character from their leaders. That's a big reason why they agree to follow those leaders, why they vote them in, or why they accept their leadership. And there are people in your organization, your family, your circle of influence who may never meet you face to face, but they will know your reputation because of your character. And the great thing is that out of all the aspects of leadership, your character is the most controllable. This is what we talked about in leadership, ministry. And it's something that's the most controllable by yourself. You may not get to choose the context of where you end up leading. And by leading, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to be a leader. But you can choose how you're going to conduct yourself within whatever context you're in. How do you best develop your character? Got some suggestions. Got 6 of them. Number 1, and I ran into this the other day with someone, and I was able to talk to my kids about it a little bit. There's a Bible verse we had that said, "Let your yes be yes and your no be no." Do what you say you will do. That's number 1. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. You have to follow through, even when it's difficult. When you begin a task or a goal, see it through to completion. Actions speak louder than words, and the people around you will notice if you're a person of your word. This is why, with this radio show, loathed the times I had to call it off for a night, or was called away, or was sick, or whatever. You can probably count out of 4 years of this incarnation of this show, maybe a dozen times where I called off a show. Although there was a couple of months in there where I didn't do shows at all because I was going to drop out of it altogether. But do what you say you're going to do. And I did that with this show because I believe this is what I said I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it. Now, am I always that way? Not always. Sometimes you have financial obligations. You said you're going to pay that thing every month on this date. And sometimes you run into hardships. You can't manage it. Well, what's the next best thing to doing what you say you're going to do when you can't do it? Communication. Which leads to the second one. Take responsibility for your actions. Instead of looking for ways to place blame on other people, be a leader. Own your decisions. You're able to develop a new level of respect from others when you accept responsibility for your own actions or your failures. And if you don't want to own it, then don't choose to do it. It's that simple. Own who you are. Own your decisions. Own your obligations and your responsibilities. Own your words. Your words are valuable. When you utter something that commits you to something, honor your word. If you don't want to own it, don't choose to do it. So 1, do what you say you're going to do. 2, take responsibility for your decisions. Number 3, know your boundaries and the boundaries of others. Hang on. This is old from earlier today, but I need to wet my throat. Warm, sugarless Mountain Dew. All right. Know your boundaries and the boundaries of other people. Don't allow your position of leadership within your family, within your organization, within your work, within your circle. Don't allow that position of leadership to make you oblivious to the boundaries of those that you lead. If you show respect, then you're going to earn respect in return. I had a session with my 2 daughters today where I was so fed up with them. I grabbed them. They both had on hoodies, and I grabbed them both by their hanging hoodies, and apparently got their hair in them as well. And Ellery, the little one, 8, she's not so little, screaming and kicking and whining and wailing and gnashing her teeth. And I'm like, that's enough now. And I was mad at them because all day, they were both home today, all day, bickering, fighting. I sit down here, bang, 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 bang across the floors. Yell, 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 yell. I finally went up there when I heard Rainey walk back in, and she's already breaking up them arguing and bickering. And Rainey's yelling. I'm like, all right, I got to go up there. So I went up there, and I walked in, and I saw one daughter push the other one over. And I just flashed red, and I grabbed them both by the hoodies. I'd have knocked their heads together if they'd have been 2 guys. Won't do that to my little girls. I was so pissed off at them for the way they were acting. And of course, the other one just crying because, little kids. Oh my God, I'm being reprimanded. Don't touch me. She didn't say that. She was like in fear for her life, which is good at 8 years old. Not literally in fear for her life, but you know what I mean. But I've got to know my boundaries, and they've got to know my boundaries. I've got to know their boundaries as well. And I got Rowan was pretty hurt and bruised by her ego, bruised by my tirade. She ran off to her room. And I poked my head in a while later. And I said, hey, I don't want to talk to you. I go, fine. Talk to me when you want to. And then she came out and she did the shirt thing. Hey, what's that on your shirt? Dad, I need to talk to you. I said, okay. What do you want to talk about? And she starts talking. She goes, what is that? I looked down and she flipped my nose. Or here on camera earlier in the show, grabbed my beard, my chin whiskers. So things are back to normal. But I only bring that up to say character, integrity, the things we build on, the things we do. We've got to understand boundaries. So not only do we do what we say we're going to do, we take responsibility for it, and we know our boundaries and the boundaries of others. A little different when you're a parent, but the same principles apply. Number 4 is understand your strengths. It's imperative when developing character, leading those around you, to first understand yourself and where your strengths lie. You have to work within your strengths and delegate those things that are not within your strengths. And when you ask someone to do something, you can't or should not do, be sure to publicly praise and thank them. And this is going to bring a new sense of community and encouragement and familial favor to your place. 5, know when to turn off the lights and go home. So these are leadership principles for work positions and leadership, but I'm making them cross-apply. So your job shouldn't be your life. It's all about balance. It's about focusing. Only on your job can lead to exhaustion. It can lead to frustration within the workplace, within your family. You lead by example. That's what you have to do with your kids. There's a lot of things where you can go, because I said so. But you have to lead by example. If you say, I don't want you swearing in the house, and you swear up a blue streak every time something happens, you're not leading by example. Encourage those that are around you to spend time with their families, to spend time with each other, to learn to get to know each other by making time with your family as a priority. And then number 6, learn to distinguish between your own needs and your own wants. There's a good one. Distinguish between your needs and your wants. There are differences, you know. A need is something you must have to survive or to complete a task or whatever it might be. Whereas a want is simply the desire for something, the desire to have it, the desire to own it or have it or make it part of your life. It's a desire. Don't confuse the two. Don't use your position as a leader to treat your wants as needs. You have to live your life by always telling the truth. We had another Bible verse, a short proverb we used all the time. Speak the truth in love. Speak the truth in love. And if you do this, you're never going to have to remember what you told 2 different people. You're my favorite. You know, Rowan said that to me the other day. You'll do that for me because I'm your favorite and you love me the best. I said, yep, that's it. So if you do this, you'll never have to remember what you told different people or how you carried out the expectations. And if you expect truth from others, you have to first show it in the way that you lead, both in your office, in home, and other places. So we got to get out of here for the radio audience. We're at the end. You know what, radio audience? Come on over to the chat room over on the YouTube channel. Until then, live long and prosper.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Welcome to the Captain's Cabin. For those of you sticking around after hours, the radio show is over, and this is a more informal approach to the rest of the show for however long it's going to be. I don't like going all the way till 11 o'clock every night. It started off as let's do 10 or 15 minutes as an after show, and it turned into an hour and sometimes 2 hours, and only a couple times do we go 3 hours after the show. I don't know. Some of you may remember some of those days. So we'll just talk for a little bit. If anybody wants to call in, now's the time you can do that. Here is the, if you want to call into the studio, I'll post the link right here in the chat room. And I got to sneeze. Woo! All right. And so you can come on in if you want to. Those of you I didn't get a chance to say hi to, hey, Carlene, good to see you here tonight. And Susie Q, who's been here forever with this show. Appreciate you being here. Good to see you as always. Steph Cuervo Queen. Good to see you, Steph. And, oh, look, we got Michael calling in. Let's bring Michael in.
Boom. A good show. Let me get this adjusted.
Michael, I am going to get rid of my my header here.
All right. Oh,
boom. Like that.
You have to adjust the whole camera here. I have to play with the laptop a little bit.
That's all right.
No, good show. Like I said, I totally forget about it. My mind's about that long most of the time. And I was like,
yeah.
I was like, I was going to update you about, KB and stuff. And it's like,
yeah.
And stuff.
How's KB doing today?
He got back from the emergency room, and he said something about the show in the morning. He said he's going to give you a call, and
okay.
And then I told him I said you want to sit in, but I'm trying to figure out StreamYard. But I was going to say if you want to sit in the big seat and have all the power Wendy had this morning, I'll just come on in the morning with you, so we can get that figured out.
We can get that figured out. Yeah. It's easy once you get used to it. It flows.
Yeah, but it goes back to
folks tomorrow morning. Morning coffee with KB and KB Kenny Ballos. He's been kind of down. He's been sick and he's got cancer. He's been given a relatively short period of time yet to live, but he's doing what he can. I hope he's taking advantage of some of those remedies that people are sending him. The morning weekday streams, Susie Q, they're always at 9 o'clock
Eastern
in the morning Central Time. I'm sorry, Eastern, 8 o'clock in the morning Central. And Kenny Ballos does them. He doesn't use StreamYard. He broadcasts right from his Facebook page. Now, I did it the other morning from StreamYard, filling in for him. And Wendy did it this morning, filling in from StreamYard. And Michael's going to do it tomorrow morning, filling in from StreamYard. And so you'll have a little better opportunity to hop in there if you don't have Ken as a friend. But go look up Ken Ballos, Ken KB in the middle, Ballos, Ballos. Friend him, and you'll see when his shows come on. Valerie did that, by the way, this morning too with Wendy. I think Val is in the group tonight, isn't she?
Yeah.
There she is, Valerie.
No, that's what I was saying. If you want to go live on StreamYard, I'll come in with you that way because everything's set up in your studio.
I can go live on StreamYard, but when I go live, I take the kids to school in the morning, and I'm not usually back till 5 or 10 minutes after 8. So when I fill in, I always make it 8:30 in the morning Central.
That'll work. 9:30 work.
9:30 in the morning Eastern. 7:30. Oh no, it's 6:30 if you're out on the left coast.
Yeah.
So.
Or what is it? 1:30 when it's UK time.
Yep. So if you want me to put it on my StreamYard, Steph, you can only see it on Kenny's Facebook, but we're trying to get him transferred over to StreamYard. So if I'm going to run the broadcast tomorrow morning, we'll do it right from here. It'll be StreamYard and my YouTube page. You can go to the YouTube page and pick up the chat room and all of that. So
Roberts.com or .YouTube. Scotty was the Y, not an IE. My phone auto corrected that.
Scotty with an I or Y, not an IE. So
How does Scotty spell it in the movie? How will Scotty spell it?
what movie?
Um,
Oh, a Star Trek
yeah,
with a Y.
I'm still trying to figure out who was that in the prequel where he said, "I cannot believe this woman. She got the whole planet, and I don't like to fly." Was that McCoy that got divorced and he lost the whole planet in the divorce and he had to go?
Oh yeah, he
Yeah.
says she took the whole planet, she took everything but my bones.
Yeah, Bones.
That's where Kirk named him Bones.
Yeah, everything but
In that version of the story, Bones was actually just a nickname, historic nickname for doctors during like the Civil War. They called them Bones. Like that. So.
Oh, was it Saul? They called him a Saul something other. Saul Bones. Yeah, Saul Bones. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I've seen it. You talking about integrity and honor and all that thing. I always tell people, you only have two things in life that's truly yours. That's your time and your knowledge. And what you choose to do with that is what makes you a man or a woman.
That's right.
And I was looking back, at the Soldier's Creed and the Army values and stuff, and it actually was in the Army values: integrity, courage, and all that. And I'm like, yeah, it must be
what it's all based on.
Yeah. It must be pretty big if they put it in there. Right? I got to pull it from my phone. Had to look. Like I said, it's been a long time, but it actually says it right here. It says loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, and integrity, and personal courage. And sometimes it takes a lot of personal courage to do the right thing and to own your mistakes. That's what I always tell people. I was like, I gauge a person's wealth by if they own their fuck ups. It's easy to say, "Hey, look what I did. It's all good." But when you say,
"Yeah,"
hey, and like I said, and I must not be too bad. This thing here, she loves me to death. But anyway.
Yeah, she's a sweetie.
Oh, you going to wave? Okay, wave. Okay. Well, maybe not. Well.
She wants her camera time, says Carlene.
That's it. She don't do nothing. I was talking to Scotty the other day. And he kept doing the same thing he's doing the other day on camera. She's like, "Hey, nobody watch me." And she's like, "Yeah." Oh, and she knows it too, Barbara. She knows she has me wrapped around that paw. She does, and but this is and I tell people, I gauge people by how my dog reacts to them. If you don't like my dog, that's fine. You might not be a dog person, but if my dog don't like you, get back here.
Yeah.
But, hey, look at Ireland the other day. He's like, I won't go pet that dog. And that dog's like, I don't want you to touch me, dude. You're a weirdo. But I saw something funny. This out there sprinkling sea salt around where Biden walked to get rid of the bad juju. And I was like, wow.
Oh, who was doing that? You were doing that?
No, the Irish people after Joe Biden went to Ireland the other day.
Oh,
and he left, and wherever he walked, and they was out there sprinkling the salt to get rid of the bad water.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I'm like, wow.
He's supposedly supposed to announce his candidacy for re-election tomorrow, so that'll be interesting.
George Carlin said it best. They've got to be. He said, don't get mad at the politician. He said, if that's the best that we can come up with, we are doomed as a race of people.
Ain't that the truth?
And I'm like, wow. And that's like I've told people, that goes back to integrity. That man is a walking liar. He is. Top of my class.
Unbelievable.
And like I said, his integrity is one thing, but everything that he tries to if people goes back and listen to some of the speeches he's made, it's like, wow.
The interesting thing about Biden is he's always been that way. He's somebody who, when he started lying and getting caught in lies, was before the time we think, hey, everything you've ever done is recorded.
Yeah.
You can find out. And it's all little lies, or what I call the little lies, the compounded lie upon lie upon lie. It's a life of not having integrity.
No,
now, can you be a liar and have no character and on occasion stumble upon something that's good and try to do something good? Sure. There's good people who lack character. People who have good ideas who lack character. I think Joe Biden was probably one of them. But I think what he's always done, it seems to me, is he's always been something that does what is efficacious to accomplish his own ends, where he wants to be, which is a hell of a lot of politics. I get it.
Philip Blair said it's a big club and we're not in it. The only part they do with the big club is just. But you know, he had it right. How long has George Carlin been passed? But he covered that in
at least 10 years.
Yeah, 80s and 90s. He was way ahead of his time. He was like,
yeah, he was way ahead.
He was. He's like, if you
he saw it back then.
Yeah, he's like, they have sold us out, and they have, which it wasn't as bad then, but it is now.
Yeah,
and like I said, these politicians, they have no integrity anymore. And that was, what is it? They said the reason honest people don't go to D.C. and become politicians because they don't want to be done in.
There it is.
Yeah, I tell them, everybody that tries to do the right thing and put power back in the hands of the people, they usually take care of it.
Elvis is in the building, by the way.
Thank you, Steph. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I need me some blue suede shoes. That would go good with my outfit. Yeah, it really would.
Today's outfit?
Oh yeah, she said now. Oh yeah. Hey, blue suede shoes goes to any outfit. Oh yeah, they got rid of Tucker Carlson. I said, if you want to kill a news network, get rid of the only one that people still watch.
Yep. I was a little disappointed that Tucker left, and I think that's a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
Same reason Don Bongino left his affiliation with Fox and went out on his own.
Yeah, Glenn Beck.
Everybody was Glenn Beck did. It was, as Bongino says, he says the liberal bias media. He read a headline, something like, Bongino is out at Fox. The MAGA wearing idiot, was even too much for their network. And, something akin to that. And he said, the funny thing is it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with contracts. And he says, I didn't want to agree to the terms of the new contract. And so I said, I'm going to do better on my own. Yeah. And he says, I wasn't fired or released. I left. And he says, that shows you how the left likes to spin it.
Oh, yeah.
But
Glenn Beck actually owns the Blaze, the Raised, what is the Blaze Radio Network, whatever, actually give an open invitation for Tucker to come join forces. Then he said his people, so, if he goes to the Blaze, because I think Trump has something to do with Trump Media Network or something I saw today, and I'm like,
who?
Don't Trump have something to do with the Blaze Network or something? Glenn Beck's network.
Oh, Trump. Glenn Beck is phenomenal, by the way.
He is.
Love listening to Glenn Beck.
Yeah, I know. He got out of New York a long time ago. He's getting death threats from his family. Then he went to Texas. And he said Jesse Ventura had to leave MSNBC because they tried to muzzle him. That's Scotty's old governor.
I always have this one story I tell about Jesse Ventura when he was running for governor, which I think was back in the early 90s, if I remember correctly. I saw a news clip with him. He's walking through Eveleth, Minnesota, a little town up north of here. And big little town. And he's walking down the street, and there's people all around him. And somebody yells out something to him negative. And he yells back at him. He goes, yeah, well, I don't need your vote, asshole. Or I don't want your vote, asshole. Yeah. And I went, yes, I'll vote for him just for saying that. I don't care what he stands on. I said, if he's going to be honest, say, this is who I am. And if you're a dumbass, I'll call you a dumbass. I'll vote for him. I don't know. I don't remember even at the time if I did vote for him or not.
But the only thing that I got against him, he said, when I win, I will repel into the Capitol out of a Black Hawk. And he didn't do it.
Yeah.
I want to see him as an old man fast rope. That's what I really want.
Right.
I want to see a governor fast rope into the Capitol. but he went on to do stuff at that whole conspiracy thing with Jesse Ventura or whatever.
Yeah,
rolled
it
around.
was actually pretty good.
But now he resides in Mexico like 8 months out of the year. So,
Well.
yeah, the Mexican dream. Who would have thought that was a thing in 2023?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all the Americans with a lot of money is going to Mexico.
Yep. Well, my grandfather had that little the land on the little island off the north coast of Honduras. Huge community of gringos, they call them down there. Americans who either expats or just wanted to get away from. So
Yeah.
I bumped into somebody online on Facebook. I don't know where I saw them. Might have been a friend of a friend, and they were talking about being on Roatan, the same island where my grandfather lived, and I struck up a little conversation with her, and I said, my grandfather used to live down there. Oh, and she's an American from like Michigan or something. Might have even been Minnesota, but pulled up stakes and says, I did it. I'm moving to Roatan.
Yeah.
And that's right where my grandfather lived, and he lived in the Sandy Bay settlement. And
sounds nice. Ass in, what is it? Says toes in the water, ass in the sand, the cold one in my hand. Yeah.
Yep.
It's something there about January 6th. When Tucker told the truth about January 6th, the government was forced to release the
Yep.
"You Won't Hit," and I think that was his name. His days was numbered.
Yep. Yeah, Tucker released all that information that was the antithesis of what the whole January 6th commission was all about and all that crap. And he said, you know why you haven't seen any of these videos? People said, I've never seen those before. You know why? They were suppressed.
Yeah.
They didn't want you knowing that because their big ace in the hole for 2024 was the caterwaul about January 6th. And that this is what the Republicans want and blah, 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 blah. And, you don't hear a whole lot about January 6th anymore.
No,
So
it don't serve a political narrative no more.
No longer works. They deflated the political narrative of the left.
And he said something about Hunter and the sex stuff. Oh, his laptop would be X-rated.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, but like I said, it's, and all the people who signed the form and said, oh, that's Russian disinformation. They covered it up. They're like, hey, this is we don't like the orange guy. He's bad. We need to do everything we can.
They pull out all the stops.
Yeah.
Why do you think you've seen so much about Trump over the last 6 years?
Yeah.
They tried to get rid of him from day one. Any way, shape, or form they could.
What does it say? By hook or
And I know I've said it on this show several times, but do you know how many times they tried to impeach Trump before they actually brought it to the vote? 9 different times. 9 times. The first articles of impeachment were crafted against Trump the second day he took office. So that tells you something right there. And then I saw the best picture. Trump sitting in his chair. He's kind of at this angle. And you see his all the way down to his feet and his nice shoes. And he's on a Persian rug or something. And he's sitting there. He's looking at the camera, kind of smiling. He goes, even when I get impeached, I don't get impeached. So, and twice. They impeached him twice.
Yeah.
And twice it was vacated by the Senate. So he was never even impeached.
It's about like the indictment.
He was impeached by a party vote in the House. And that's how he got impeached in the House. The Senate said, no can do.
Yeah, about like, what was it? The indictment for him out of New York. They had to find the liberal prosecutor that would toe party lines.
Yeah. And he actually ran to get that office on, I will do whatever I can to bring down Trump. So there you go.
Yeah, never Trumpers. Does anyone think the nominee that will be what does
AOC is ridiculously stupid.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
She is. Wasn't she a bartender or something before? She found
Which
somebody.
she can still go back to.
Yeah. But that's what I tell people. It's woke politics at its best. The squeaky wheel
Yep.
gets the grease. It's and I don't know. It's just crazy. It's my Republican
It
representative.
is.
Well, somebody said that Tucker should be DeSanto's running mate in 2024. I heard that today on one of the talk radio shows when I was going to the VA. I thought, there's enough people who don't insult bartenders.
Philip Blair says his Republican representative is one of the two in the House, who's still in the House, who voted to impeach. It was an honor to reelect him. He's very much a traditional conservative. Yeah. Well, I would have a hard time personally, Philip. I would personally have a hard time voting for somebody who chose to politically impeach somebody.
Yeah.
That doesn't say character to me. But I don't know what state you're in and who your representative is and what his reasons were, but yeah. There you go. That's my take on it.
Oh, she says Tucker and Trump. Anita Palmer said.
Oh yeah, Tucker. No, Tucker will always be an entertainment news broadcaster. He's not going to run for office. I don't think ever. I did see an interesting, and I heard something. Was it somebody on this show said this? They were talking about RFK Jr.
Yeah.
And how he and Trump are very close friends. And even though he's a Democrat, he and Trump think an awful lot alike.
Trump was a Democrat before for a
Yeah,
long
he
time.
was. So it'd be interesting. Somebody said he might run as the vice president with Trump. I don't know. But he's got RFK Jr. has a lot of integrity.
You can make that happen. You can have one party for one and one for the other.
Chuck Thurston says twice impeached, historic, and twice vacated, historic as well.
Yeah.
An entire House that for all but two people voting for impeachment were all on the left, all Democrats, historic. An historic political hatchet job.
Okay.
So,
Scotty Roberts. Dan Newhouse is his name.
Dan Newhouse, okay. He lived through January 6th. So did almost everybody else.
Yeah.
Well, frankly, everybody lived through January 6th except Babbitt. And that's all been brought out, too.
Well,
So,
what was the veteran that got shot by the Capitol
Babbitt.
Police? Yeah.
I'm skipping on her first name. Starts with an A.
Yeah.
Babbitt. Ashley Babbitt.
Oh, Green. It finally hit me who she's talking about. She's talking about I forget where she's from, but she is good. I like her, and I think the guy out of West Virginia. No, where is he from? The other little guy that always comes up. He's the one that said if you put Joe Biden in charge of the Sahara Desert, that he'd run out of sand in 6 months. What is his
and
name?
he'd go begging from Iraq to get more sand.
Yeah, it'd be Trump's fault. Yeah, it'd be Trump's fault.
And it'd be Trump's fault.
Yeah. Oh wow. What state is she from? I forget what state she's from.
Who are you talking about?
The green lady, the one that called out the guy the other day, and she said, "I am not taking no lick from somebody who was sleeping with a Chinese spy."
Oh, that was
Wyoming or something is where she's from.
Yeah, was it
Green?
Very close to Babbitt. Was it Bobbitt? Is that her last name?
No, her last name is Green.
Oh, Green.
I think
I know who it is. I see her face now. Blonde hair, Green. Yeah, she called him out, and what's his name? Didn't want. He wanted it stricken from the record.
Yeah.
And the chair said, "No, we'll keep it."
Chuck said she was crawling through a smashed window with a backpack. Of course, they shot her.
Oh, hey. Sure. I bring you in, Dave, and you get rid of your picture.
Yeah, I did get rid of my picture.
Oh, ain't no need to be.
It's good enough for Sarah. It's good enough for me.
There you go.
He's a feared tonight. He's a feared.
I met Robert Kennedy Jr. at a parade a few years back. He really was very nice and actually shook my hand. Joe Biden would shake your hand.
Yeah. And said,
his son was picking your pocket.
Yeah. Saying, "Hey, do you want to buy my art?" Yeah. Say. I'm an artist.
No, I just say, no. I'm a real painter.
Chuck said she was crawling through a smashed window with a backpack. Of course she got shot. I don't buy it, Chuck.
That's not what she was doing at the time when she was shot.
Nope, she wasn't.
So,
And smelling kids, she said. Oh, Carlene, the great sniffer.
no, Trump went in there to clear out the swamp, and any politician that stands up against that must be part of the swamp, in my opinion.
Very true.
Oh, she said, I don't want
Republican or Democrat. And I think that's where McConnell and those guys, they're all making money off of the insider trade and all that stuff. They don't want to stop that.
No.
Trump's showing a big light on it, and it was so bad for them that they stopped hiding what they were doing and just came out in the open to do everything they could to get rid of him, regardless of how it looked to the public, because they didn't give a fuck at that point. They just wanted to get rid of him.
Right. They just wanted him out. And why did they want him out so bad? What made him such an evil, bad person?
Because he was going to shine a light on all the corruption. And all they did is trip all over themselves to show how much corruption they actually had.
Yes. And by everything they've done just shows how corrupt they really are.
Yeah.
Out in the open. So, I ask that of people on occasion when it comes up again. So why do you hate Trump so much? What is it that he did? What policy did he enact? What did he do to this country that makes you hate him so bad? You know what? I get very few answers that can't be taken down in a sentence.
Yeah.
Yep.
So McConnell is around.
I don't know how anyone could vote for him after the last 4 years and the economy and everything that's going on in the country and everything they've seen the Bidens do and all of that, how you could still vote for Biden and not vote for Trump. I don't get it.
No.
Yeah. And Philip, I think DeSantis is only against Trump because he might be running against him.
Yeah.
I don't think, remember, DeSantis came out in defense of Trump
on multiple things.
Indictment on multiple levels. Yeah. And the only time Trump is a big competitor.
Yeah.
He'll say anything he has to say to somebody who he thinks is running against him. And that's just his style. And I don't care. And I take it with a grain of salt. But I think if it came down to it, if DeSantis had to vote for a president and he wasn't running, I'm pretty sure he'd vote for Trump.
Yep. I still think Trump DeSantis ticket would be unstoppable.
It would be. It would be.
And it would set DeSantis
may have already been there, except DeSantis was making overtures of running himself. I still don't know if he's going to or not.
Well, and he keeps saying that he's not running, is basically what he's saying. Nope, I'm not doing this because I'm running. I'm doing this because I have to take care of this stuff, and I'm pushing my state.
He says, I'm the governor of Florida. That's where my business lies. So.
Okay. He said, Philip Blair said, I would vote against term limits. Why?
Why? What do you have against term limits? Term limits are a good thing.
DeSantis is against Trump. I prefer Trump. What about term limits? I would vote against term limits. I would vote for term limits.
Yeah.
I think the common sense. Why do we only limit the president to 2, but a senator can run 12 to 20 times?
And never have a real job.
Remember the founders, when they set it all up, they never meant for Congress to be a career.
No. And even when they leave Congress, they come back on some kind of committee. I figure if you serve in D.C. 2 years, then you cannot hold a job in any cabinet or anything like that. It has to be his wall that never happened, his health care plan that never happened.
My idea of a career politician is somebody who runs for city office, maybe serves as a councilman, and then becomes a mayor, and then maybe runs for a state office or a county office, and then works his way up and spends his life in politics, but does local government, county government, state government, eventually runs for a federal seat. That's a life in politics for me. Yep. Someone who has never really held a real job.
Joe Biden.
Like Joe Biden. becomes a senator or a congressman and spends 40 years in the House, just getting more corrupt with every term.
Yep.
That's not what the government was designed to do.
Well,
Did
here,
you see?
Chuck-
I don't know if I sent you a link to this earlier, but I posted it on my site. The Congress read the entire Constitution into the records. They
That's
each took a part because they said either our Democratic brothers don't understand it or they've never actually heard it.
right. Chuck Thurston said he's pointing out things that he believes that were bad about Trump. His wall that never happened, he mentions. His health care plan that never happened. His immigration control that was brutal.
You see all that wall footage that the migrants are getting around? The wall was bought and paid for. It was going up. Biden stopped it before it could be completed and left all the material just laying there on the ground. Our government paid contractors to not build a wall.
Yep.
That's ridiculous. That's a waste of our money. And I don't blame Trump for it. I blame Biden for it. Those people were paid, they had jobs, and the materials were there. Put the damn wall up.
Oh, he said Biden is too damn old. He has outlived his usefulness.
Well, I agree. I've said with Biden, it's not that he's just old. I mean, Trump's only, 5 years behind him? Something like that?
It's the mental acuity, though.
It's the mental acuity, which Biden is lacking. And I don't blame him for that. I don't blame Biden for that. I got my problems with Biden, but it's come to the place like, do you put a man who's suffering from dementia in prison? No. Just put him out to pasture, let him go.
Retire him and send him home.
Why do we in the United States tolerate having a leader that's supposedly the leader of the free world in power that can't think for himself? That's not a leader.
No.
And again, I've said it before. I don't care if it's a Democrat or a Republican, a liberal or a conservative. Well, I do. But get somebody in office who can think, who can make their own decisions. Biden can't make his own decisions. He doesn't even know which way to go.
Well, and that's the cabal that's running the government. That's what they want. He's a puppet for them.
And but why isn't this blown wide open by the press? Why isn't it blown wide open?
Because they're part of it.
People all over the place. Because they're compliant with it. That's the problem. But getting it back to some of what Chuck said, the wall that never happened. The wall was underway and would have been completely finished were it not for the obstacles that he was given. It's not because Trump didn't follow through.
Yeah, Biden stopped it.
His healthcare plan that never happened. I don't know much about his healthcare plan, what it was. I don't think we ever saw much. He said they were going to work on it, but that wasn't his top priority. His top priority was repealing the bad healthcare law and moving on, fixing other things. Like I say, Trump was the GSD, the get shit done president. And you got to prioritize things. Was healthcare the most important thing? No. Immigration was. The wall was. You say his immigration control, it was brutal. What did Trump do that was brutal?
Yeah.
In immigration. I know he was wrongfully, and it was a lie. He was wrongfully accused of putting kids in cages.
That were built by Obama.
And were built by Obama for that purpose.
And used stock footage later on.
For that purpose. Trump was the one who signed an executive order ending the use of that. So whatever else was brutal, I don't know. The whole thing with everybody got all worked up. Now this is under the Biden administration, but the immigration or the Border Patrol whipping people from horseback.
Which never happened.
Lie from the beginning. And it was finally debunked. And the news media even picked it up, which surprised me. But it was debunked. And they said right from the start, he's not whipping anybody. It's his reins. He's reining his horse.
Because they're trying to show him
in his hand.
Yeah.
What else about immigration control was brutal?
Child separation.
Which happens in every city across the country. When you're arrested, they take your kids away from you.
Yep. And I got to tell you something, Chuck. When taking your kids away from you, if you break the law, how many people get to go to jail with their children? Now, that's considered inhumane.
Yeah.
But in immigration, it's okay. The kids got separated from the adults because the adults were being held for illegally crossing the border. Now, they were all reunited, but you can't have kids in a holding tank with a bunch of men that have crossed the borders illegally.
Yeah.
And you don't put them up in a hotel. And if it's like it's been said many times, if they're coming over seeking asylum, then they need to follow the procedure for asylum. That's why we had the wait in Mexico deal, which is now being reinstituted after Biden signed an executive order to squash it. Because all Biden did the first 2 months he was in office was sign 93 executive orders to try to undo and erase anything that was Donald Trump. And that was the cabal behind him.
Yeah.
And they're finding out one by one that a lot of the stuff they signed as an executive order, they've got to find a way to do their coming back to it without admitting that Trump was right. So, and Trump did not have brutal policies at the border.
Let's just face it, over and over and over again, Trump was proven right.
Yeah.
When he was first elected, he said, "Hey, they had people spying on my campaign and tapping my phones." And they were, "Oh no, that's just crazy talk. You're paranoid." Blah blah blah. And then a few months later, it all comes out that was actually happening. And so then they just kind of brush that under the rug. Oh, we won't talk about that anymore.
Chuck,
and they just continually list stuff like that.
Argument, Chuck, you say all? Well, we don't know. I don't have the numbers and the paperwork in front of me. All I know is that not all of them were separated out of some kind of cruelty. Most of them were not. You might have had a handful. You did not have.
According to the
that's a weak argument. All
according to the whole immigration people down there, I can't think what they're called. Not ICE. That's a different branch, but the Border Patrol. That was policy under Clinton. That was policy under Obama. That's been policy for decades. You separate the family, take kids away, put the children in one facility, put the parents in another.
Philip Blair, did the Dakota or the Sioux separate your family for illegal immigration? No. Did the Dakota and the Sioux cover the entire country and have jurisdiction over immigration into the borders? No.
No.
Did the United States government in the 1800s, the late 1700s to the early 1900s, were there unscrupulous people that were in control of that? Yes. I've talked about that at great length on this program.
Yeah. You're not going to find any argument there.
Yeah.
We're barking up the wrong tree.
Sioux, they didn't separate anyone for illegal immigration because it was a completely different paradigm, number one. Number two, you didn't have a nation from border to border with laws and cities and city laws and states that didn't exist back then.
Well, not only that, number three, it wasn't America when we started. When in the 1600s, when the first immigrants came over here, they were colonies from England and Spain and France and the Netherlands and so on and so forth. So it wasn't America yet. It wasn't America for almost 200 years after we were here.
Right.
People forget how hard that a lot of the tribes fought. You could be killed by the Sioux for just crossing into Indian territory.
You could.
Yeah.
They took immigration real serious.
Which was unmarked.
They took it very seriously.
And he's talking about the Shoshone. My grandmother on my mom's side is Shoshone. And I've told Scotty about that. And and people seem to have forgot that when you cross international borders without permission, that is a crime.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even go into Canada. The mounted police.
You can't walk down into Mexico and just say, "Hey, I'm going to stay here now." Throw your ass out or throw it in prison.
Yeah, go to any other country. Go to
North
Great
Korea.
Britain and say, "Hey, I'm just moving in now."
Yeah. Go to North
They
Korea.
got rules.
That's it.
We've got rules too. What is it with everybody that thinks we shouldn't have rules for immigration?
I don't understand that either.
Yeah, it's
See, And there, people are like, well, why do you call them illegal immigrants? Well, why do you call a bank robber a bank robber? You can go and take money out of the bank if you have an account there and you have money in your account. But if I walk into a bank, I don't have an account and I take money out, I'm robbing it.
Right.
Okay. You can invite people in the front door to hang out at your house. Maybe you're having a party. But the people that crawl in through the back window and are hanging out that weren't invited, they're not guests.
Yeah. By the way, Chuck, I'm not sure what that statement is in reference to. I just popped it up so I could ask you without me scrolling back and reading everything. I'm not sure what you're referring to with that.
Well, I can't even read it. I don't have my glasses on.
It said, he said, LOL, dilution is a choice. Dilution of what? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Are you talking about immigration? You're talking about Native American culture?
I don't have anything against immigration. If people want to come to this country, that's awesome. But there's a process that's set in place. And if the politicians don't like the process, they're the ones that can rewrite it and change it. Then effing do that. Change the policy.
But they don't.
Because then they don't have anything to whine and cry about. If they wanted to fix immigration, they could fix it. And let me tell you, there are people on both sides of the party that would love to do that bill. Let's do it. But anytime it gets brought up, people are like, "Oh no, I can't. I don't have time. I can't do it." I mean, and off they go.
Yeah. The only time that gets brought up to one is a political narrative. That's
and
it.
By the way, Philip Blair, I wrote a very moving article. Several of them. You can go to my academia.org site and read some of them. One I wrote on Oh the Humanity. About conservative and liberal. And I talked about Native American rights in that. Go read that. It's very memorable, if I do say so myself. As our card said tonight, our affirmation card, it says, I am greatness. And hopefully everybody else will realize I'm also greatness. I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. So said Stuart Smalley.
Yeah. I want my participation trophy.
Right, it's just before he put his hand on somebody's butt. So
but that's
Philip said, I'll email you a lecture that a local Yakama man recently gave at Central Washington U, broadcast live over YouTube on their laws and how they work and worked for the last 500 years. There you go. Well, you have the Six Nations Confederacy. Up in the north of it was New York State,
the Iroquois and the Mohawk and all that,
northern Wisconsin. The Ruben could say it faster than I can. The Huron, the Mohawk, the Iroquois,
parts of which end up in our Constitution.
What was my Annette's mother was, which means Abby and Bryn and Sam are all part. They look very Germanic and Dutch with their blonde hair and blue eyes. My kids, my three older kids.
Cherokee?
But, no, she was Oneida.
Oneida.
And the grandmother. And so she was, I believe she was more than half Oneida, considered that. So Annette was a quarter Oneida. My kids are an eighth Oneida, that kind of thing. My three older ones. And so
just get in line. No, get in line like Ellis Island. Our grandparents had to do that. It's the one that had nothing to do with owning slaves. I don't even think Ellis Island is open to process anything anymore.
No, it's just a museum pretty much now.
Yeah, but like I said, that.
But you also have to remember that Ellis Island was created at a time when the immigrants were coming through. Tuberculosis and stuff like that was running rampant through Europe and stuff like that. And a big part of Ellis Island was to weed the sick ones out so that they didn't start a plague here.
Yep. And by the way,
they had a huge hospital there, and you went into the hospital, and if you survived, you got to come in to the country. If you didn't survive, where do you want your body sent?
She said, Mohawk. How do you pronounce it?
See, you know what, Steve Clark, you can't blame what's going on today. Like Ruben Fasthorse says when he's come on this show. He and he's my brother. I love him. He's Lakota. and teaches his ways. He sticks to his heritage. He's that's not the way I want to say. He's promoting his heritage, lives his heritage, and yet he's an American citizen. He's a blended citizen. He also has European blood in him, but he chooses his Lakota, which is dominant, as you can tell by looking at him. But as he even says, he's a Native American activist. He teaches Native American language revivalism. He teaches Native American history. Yet he says to me, he says, Scotty's my brother. And he says, what happened 100 and 150 years ago? He says, neither of us were there. Neither of us committed atrocity. Neither of us were victims of atrocity. Now, he can say, now my people were victims of atrocity that was committed. And I agree with that. But he says, I have more opportunity than my native forebears ever had. And he says, there's an atrocity there. There's a genetic memory there. There's a spiritual side.
And the same is true for the descendants of African slaves.
Sure. Yeah. Same for African Americans. They're Americans now. They're second and third generation Americans. It's, like I heard Flip Wilson. You remember him? Comedian from the 60s and 70s. He was playing, they were doing a skit on the Carol Burnett show or something. I mean, this is how old that was.
Yeah.
Or it might have been the Flip Wilson show. And
great show.
He's playing an Aunt Jemima type black slave. And it's right at the end of the Civil War and the Emancipation Proclamation. And all I remember from that skit, he sits down and he's talking in a voice like this. He's playing a black woman slave. Think Monty Python. And he says, he puts his feet up on the table, smokes a cigar, and the plantation owners are like, what are you doing? And he says, we may have come over on different ships, but we's in the same boat now. And old Flip Wilson bit. And so that's kind of spot on, is that none of us created what existed 150 years ago, even 100 years ago.
One of the things I liked a lot about Flip Wilson was his use of comedy to accentuate the points of the mental block on the term civil rights program, the things that were going on in 68, 70 and such when his show was on, and used comedy in such a way as to be able to lay it out on the table that even white supremacists would have to look at and chuckle at and say, okay, well, that makes sense.
Right. Well, listen, I put this post up because I was reading the first sentence, but Philip, all of you guys got to chill out. If you're going to talk and discuss things, talk and discuss things. Nobody's got to get angry with anybody or point somebody else's fault out. But you said respecting a treaty has nothing to do with blame over why the treaty exists. And I agree with that statement. You can respect a treaty without understanding why it was written by our government, between governments. Don't believe people who want you to get defensive, so you're shut down. Yeah, blah 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 on that stuff. That's personal stuff. But
even so, you talk about 100 years ago. I go to Ocean City, Maryland, all the time, and I got people here because I'm in Southwest Virginia. They said, "Oh, you going up north?" And they still hold on to that old grudge. And I'm like, no. I said, it's a really nice spot. Great.
By the way, Steve Clark, it's okay. Don't worry about it. That's the way you get past this stuff in a social media setting. You just go, hey, everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's going to say something. We don't have to figure out who to blame or who's doing what or whatever. You, my brother Steve, you, my brother Philip, you know what? Just have fun and discuss things. Don't worry about it.
Don't take it personal and don't make it personal.
Nobody takes it personal. No. Nobody should take it personally.
And I'm kin to both sides too, out of West Virginia. And that all started over a pig.
Yeah. Philip mentions the Great Treaty of 1722. We didn't create it, but it created everything around us. That's very true.
Yeah.
So all of us are beneficiaries of the Great Treaty of 1722. We're all beneficiaries of what was it Andrew Jackson did? The Native American lands, everything west of the Mississippi was supposed to be not stepped on by white people at all. And I was just recently reading something about him. He gets a bad rap for that. But in actuality, if you look at some of his own words, he was doing that because he believed that would protect the Native Americans and protect their land while also expanding the United States. The United States could only go up to the Mississippi.
Well, and there's some logic in that. Let's look at the fact that in
Yep.
1780s, we weren't prepared to govern a country ocean to ocean.
Mm-mm.
We didn't have the manpower for it. We didn't have the resources for
Hell,
it.
the Corps of Discovery, Lewis and Clark, didn't even go out till 1803.
Right. And so by building the country in stages that way, we built it in manageable pieces that we could afford and could actually maintain.
Right.
They didn't even have, what was it? I forget what year it was that they built the first bridge that could hold a locomotive to go across the Mississippi because the span was too wide. I saw it on the History Channel, The Man Who Built America. Because before that, they'd bring the train up to the Mississippi, unload it, put it on barges, take it across the river, and reload it onto a different train.
There are places up here between Wisconsin and Minnesota where it's over a mile wide.
Yeah. By the way, Philip Blair, I'm horse people too. I haven't had horses since Rainey and I got rid of the ranch back in what year, Dave? We left the ranch in 2010.
Okay. I was thinking it was earlier than that, but.
And we had 26 horses at the time. So they weren't all ours. We had 5 that were ours. But I loved getting on a horse. And I loved training horses. I didn't like breaking horses. I liked training them. And Philip, maybe for a different, just a little shift for a moment on topics. And I've mentioned this here before. I used to really like Monty Roberts and his, still do, liked his method of training horses. He called it joining up. And he was known as the original horse whisperer. And I really enjoyed him. And I tried his methods with my horses. The old cowboy, Mac, Dave, you remember him? You met him. He was an old cowboy from Wyoming. He was kind of, horses is commodities. You break them and you sell them. And I was like, no, I don't like breaking. I didn't like the way he broke a horse. I tried it his way once. I was trying to break a horse. I put the rope around his neck, not tight, just like a halter. And I ran it down his chest and between his legs and out under his tail. And I would let him run around. And Mac taught me to do this. And they would run. And if Mac wanted him to do something, he'd snap that rope and it would hit his nuts or whatever his vitals and it'd drive him insane. But Mac broke him that way. And I said, I really don't like that. I did that a couple of times and I'm like, I don't like this. And so I tried Monty Roberts and his methodology.
No relation.
And he said when he was young,
not a sponsor,
out in Wyoming, and they used to be able to go up in the hills, in the plains out there, and they would find the herds of wild horses up there, and they would go and you could take them. There's nobody owned them, and they would take them and they'd bring them into corrals and they would train them from there. Hang on a second. Yes, son. Come on over and say hi while you're here. Oh. Here you go. Here's Flynn the Magnificent. There he is. There's my boy. He's our track star.
Hey, Flynn.
Hi.
Yeah.
How you doing? That's unfair. So you can't see his face. He's afeared to show his face today.
Yeah.
He is afeared. Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Or we're afeared to see it. One of the two. That's Michael. I think you met Michael once before. Yeah, I made you talk to him the other day. while I was doing something. So
Yeah,
what are you up to?
Well, we're gonna play poker and I'll play.
It's almost 11 o'clock, and you're still up on a school night. So
You got time like me,
Oh.
2 or 3 hours of gaming on the computer if you hurry.
that's right. I'll be done in a few minutes, and then I'll see you upstairs. All right. Monty Roberts' method, and I may have mentioned this on the show before. It was I put the horse in the round ring, and I wouldn't put a lead on him or anything. And if you took a stance and you squared off like this on the horse and just looked at him, the horse would start running. And he'd do the outer circle of that round ring. And you just turn, well, if he's running, you just turn with the horse. You keep squared off on him. If you wanted him to slow down, all you had to do, you change your body language. I'd turn like this and show this part of my body to him. And he'd start to slow down. And if I turned all the way and showed him my back, he'd stop. And he'd stop behind me and then walk up, and eventually his nose would come right over my shoulder.
Hey, you still paying attention to me?
Yeah. You watching me anymore? And then all I had to do, if I turned around and I'd pet him, and then I'd turn and I'd face him again, and he'd go out to the outer part of the ring. And it took some doing to get him to take a saddle and all of that stuff. But I never liked the idea of being cruel. And I thought some of Mac's methods were cruel. He's dead, so I can talk that way about him now.
Well, but he's of a different era.
He's a different era, yeah.
And that's the way they broke horses.
That's it. And maybe I'm related to him in my heart, said Philip Blair. Maybe. But I really enjoyed my horses. And I love just saddling up and going out for a ride. I remember once I bought an Aussie saddle, which they kind of look like a bit like British. Why is the word? My mind does this lately.
Like an English riding saddle.
English riding saddle.
Yeah.
And it was an Aussie saddle. It was like an English riding saddle, except more rustic, and kind of that.
They're bigger, aren't they?
What?
Aren't they bigger than an English saddle?
A little bit. And I got one of those once. I saw one at the tack shop, a used one. I go, oh, that's nice. And so I bought it. And I loved riding that. Mac, the old cowboy, he was an old rodeo guy from Wyoming. And he'd say,
Kind of a girly saddle, ain't it?
Yeah, he said something like that. He goes, what you doing with that half saddle, Mr. Roberts? That's like for girls. And I said, no. He says, you pee sitting down too? And I said, sometimes. I said, I don't like to pee on the rim of the toilet. Duh. Well, anyway, that was our little jokey conversation that would go on. But I also had a really nice big Circle R saddle. I really enjoyed that one. I did some work for the place that's down where you cross the Wakuta Bridge.
Oh, yeah.
Which my kids call the Wakuter Bridge. The Wakuter Bridge. And down below there was a saddlery place by the old
That's a
stockyard.
touch of Olson.
And And I did a bunch of work for him, and I was able to trade out a bunch of stuff. And I built a website for him and stuff like that way back. And I traded out a bunch of saddles. I got like a $1,000 Circle R saddle. Was it Circle R? Yeah, Circle R saddle. And it was gorgeous. I remember when I was divorced from Annette, it's one of the things I got. I got my saddle. And I was set up in the cities at the old Victorian house. And I had a saddle, like it's basically like a sawhorse, but a saddle holder. And I put that saddle on. It was on in the living room there by the fireplace.
I remember.
Big old saddle. I finally sold it off, but anyway.
Billy got on the water breaking. I always like the water breaking better because it's gentler on the horse.
Oh, water breaking. Yep.
The problem with water breaking is it's usually followed by crying, and then you have kids, and it's just like, oh my god.
Yeah. Then you don't have no more toys. You can
Yeah.
trade a sports car.
It seriously affects the toys. It does.
It does.
They get a lot
by the way,
smaller, and they hurt when you step on them.
Legos.
when we had the ranch, I had that ranch twice. Once when I was married to Annette, and then we were divorced, and we sold it back to Mac. Then I bumped into Mac a couple of years later after, well, Rainey and I got together 2004. We met 2005. We were together. I was divorced in 2001. And so that number of years later, 4 or 5 years, bumped into Mac out training a team out on the road back in the country over there. And Rainey and I ended up buying the ranch again, contract for deed. And so we were out there, but I said all that as backing up to something I was going to say about something. I don't like to break horses. Yeah. People who want to break people aren't horse people. Horses get traumatized by cruel people. I agree. And so that was never my way. That's never what I liked. Loved going out riding all the time. And I remember I was riding. It was up on you had this the back road, the tarmac road in the country there between all the farms. And you could go up on, there was rock formations. And you could just take from the flat on the street, you could just go up the slight hill and you'd be up on top of that rock formation along the forest. And I'm going along with my horse. This was Casper, was my horse. He was pure white and albino. And we had to really watch it in the sun with him. I had to put sunscreen on him and stuff like that and put a blanket over him. But I'd take him out riding. He was a great horse. And we go riding. And one day I see this big cat sitting in the long grass. And I just saw him from a day. He's kind of gray. And I went, "Hey, kitty." And we went by and the kitty goes, "Rawr." He was like a bobcat or something. I'm like, oh. Casper's ears went up. I said, "Let's just mosey on, Casper."
That's a spicy kitty, as we call him here.
Oh yeah, he was just sitting like a cat just sitting. Wow. He's like, "Don't fuck with me," and I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
Casper, the friendly horse. Yep. Then I had Guinness and Murphy were my other two horses. Guinness was a great horse. He went away, I think, when Annette and I were divorced. I sold him to Mac, who sold him off. Murphy was the best horse I had ever owned. It was a roping horse. I bought him from Mac for like $600. And he was a great horse. I got pictures of him still. Excellent. He was a roper. When I left the ranch after the divorce, no, it wasn't the divorce. This is when Rainey and I moved out the ranch. We didn't have anywhere to bring our horses, so we sold them to Mac. Mac ended up selling them for quite a bit of money, and apparently Mac's widow, his former wife, she told me that Murphy sold for something like $200,000 because he became a champion roper. And this was, we left the ranch in 2010. So it was sometime just the last couple of years or the last few years. He was a young horse too. He was only like less than 2 years old when I got him. So he was an amazing horse. He was a painted pony.
You telling all these horse stories, and all these guys going to go find him a horse girl, then they're going to really be in trouble.
There you go. Yep.
I was married to one, and they are batshit crazy, and they all want a little dog.
Horse people are like dog people, you know.
Yeah.
They have their things. Dog people, you know, because we were into breeding giant schnauzers. They're crazy people, and horse people can be the same.
I think you just know a lot of crazy people.
I think you might be right.
If you really want a fun night, if you're a single guy, find you a barrel racer.
Yeah, 200K.
Mm.
Is that you scrunching your face with that emoji? Yeah, it was crazy. I don't think it was 200 even. I think
Michael,
it was
better
100,
than a barrel racer,
180,000,
gymnasts.
something like that.
Gymnasts. Oh yeah. Oh.
Oh.
There we go.
Dancers too. They'll put you in traction.
Hey, you know what? Yeah, we're getting ready to say, dude, we got to keep.
Got to have a safe word.
Yeah, safe word.
Oh, by the way,
Uh,
there was an old mutual friend of Dave's and mine, Rob, and he came out to the ranch when Annette and I were still married. And I told Mac, I said, I want to take Rob riding. Do you have another horse for him? Yeah, he says, I'll leave him tied up in the barn for you. Okay, so Rob came over and we went down to the barn. There's two horses, my horse and then the horse that Rob was going to ride. And so we saddled that horse up and he was a little jumpy. And I thought, Rob doesn't ride much. Rob rides a motorcycle. And I put him on that horse, and that horse was pissy as shit. And so we brought him out into the barnyard up by the house, and he was kicking and bucking, and then he kind of calmed down a little bit, and we got Rob on him, and we rode out to the far end of the 40 acres, and then through the fence and over into the other property, the woods over there, and that horse was acting up. Finally, one time he threw Rob. Rob went up over his head. Now, Rob, mind you, is about 5'4" and 100
If that.
and 100 pounds. And but he threw him up over his head, and Rob was hanging like this with his knees up from the bridle. And he goes, help me. And he's hanging under his neck. And so we finally, we get Rob off of there, and then that horse just bucks up and rears and takes off for home. I ain't gonna fucking take you guys anywhere. I'm going home.
Yeah.
And so we ended up walking back like 3 miles. I had my horse, but his horse ran back. And so we get back, and Mac has got that horse, and he's got the saddle off him. And he goes, "What'd you all take this horse for?" I said, "You said he'd be tied up in the barn." I said, "No, I said he'd be in the stable. The one tied up in the barn's the one I ain't broke yet." So we put Rob on a horse that had never had a saddle on him before. And so that's why we had a rough time with him. Apparently would break very easily because he took to the saddle and everything right away. He just wasn't happy about it.
He was green as grass.
And he didn't know he didn't know how to rein. He didn't know nothing. So, did you come down to see me, son? Ask me. You mean me to put this on mute? Okay.
Supposed to be able to see the Northern Lights tonight.
Did you see him?
No, I want to see if can you take me?
Yeah,
to go see that?
I'll be done here in 2 minutes or so, and I'll come up and we'll go take a look.
No, we have to drive.
Where do you have to drive?
I don't know.
Just to where it's open and you can see the sky.
Ooh, Aurora Borealis.
Osceola? Yeah, you're supposed to see the Northern Lights up here tonight.
Ooh, that's worth seeing. Take the boy out to see it. There's nothing better.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, we'll go.
You'll enjoy it too. Take your camera.
I don't think you have to go all the way to Osceola to see it.
You just need to get out of the sun, out of the lights, out of the city lights.
Yeah, just like looking at stars, you have to be away from the city. So
Take your cell phone, take some pictures, post them online.
we saw some amazing Northern Lights at the ranch when we lived out there. By the way,
I heard that they could see them all the way down into New Mexico yesterday or day before yesterday.
We're going to go take a look at those as soon as we're off radio, and it's already after 11.
Yeah,
by 9
usually have
minutes,
good.
so we got to wrap it up anyway. So what? It's sooner than So
Post
all
some
right,
pictures.
guys.
Post some pictures, Flynn.
Yeah.
If we get pictures, if we see them, hopefully it's not cloudy out, like it's been most of the day.
Oh yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Has been overcast.
All right,
Probably why
guys.
we didn't see him the other day.
Uncle Dave, see you later.
See you.
All right.
And Michael, talk to you tomorrow morning.
All right. See you in the
8:30.
morning. 9:30
All
my
right.
time, 8:30 your time,
Yep,
1:30
I'll put up a post for everybody.
UK time.
All right. See you.
Bye-bye.
Good night. And everybody else, thank you for being here. Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for coming. Come again. And we'll see you tomorrow is Robertson at 4 Central, 5 Eastern. I'm doing Kenny Ballas's show, filling in tomorrow at 8:30 a.m. Central, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. And then this show again Wednesday night. And so all of you have a good night. Live long and prosper.